All right, so are you ready to dive into some fascinating dating advice today?
Always ready for a deep dive, especially into something like this.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. So, we're looking at dating in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Specifically, we've got this YouTube video titled How to Date a Filipino 101 with a little subtitle in parentheses, City Girl or Province Girl
Oh, interesting.
from a channel called the Filipina P.
Okay.
And this transcript is wild. It's all over the place,
No,
full of internet slang and some pretty bold claims about Filipino women.
yeah. I can see how this one might need a deep dive. The video definitely seems to be for a Western audience.
Right.
Guys interested in dating Filipinas, and it really focuses on these supposed differences between women from cities and women from the provinces.
Yeah, right away it draws these lines.
It does, yeah.
Oh,
And they use all these terms like fashion and freedom, even westernized lifestyle, to describe city women,
yeah.
painting a picture of them being independent and more exposed to global trends.
But then it flips the script and describes these province women as traditional and family-oriented and all about the simple life, even emphasizing how respectful they are. But, I mean, aren't those good qualities in any partner?
Of course, yeah. But I think the video is kind of playing into some tropes here,
Right.
suggesting that maybe province women fit a certain type of femininity that might appeal to Western men.
Okay, so lots to unpack already. But we can't forget the Philippines is a diverse place
Absolutely.
with all sorts of values and lifestyles. It's way too reductive to just lump everyone into these two categories.
I completely agree. And we have to remember the Philippines has seen rapid urbanization in recent decades.
Mm-hmm.
So there are often big economic differences between the cities and the provinces,
Right.
which naturally influences culture and dating expectations.
Totally. So this video might be entertaining, but it's definitely painting with broad strokes.
Yeah.
And speaking of broad strokes, it keeps mentioning sincerity and respect and commitment when it talks about dating a Filipina, even talking about making her happy and building a future together.
Yeah, on the surface, those all sound nice, right?
Of course.
But because of who this video is for, it does make you wonder if it's playing into some harmful stereotypes.
Yeah, like the stereotype of Asian women being submissive or looking for foreign partners for financial security.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
important to be aware of that context.
Absolutely. So it seems like this video is trying to walk a tightrope, giving dating advice while potentially reinforcing some bad ideas.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, why make content like this?
Right?
Well, it seems like there's a big audience for this kind of stuff online. Maybe some people genuinely want to understand different cultures. But then there's the risk of turning dating into this formula,
Yeah.
as if there's a one-size-fits-all approach to finding love internationally.
Right. And we can't forget that relationships should be about genuine connection and respect,
For sure.
not just following some cultural checklist.
Absolutely. And that's a good thing to keep in mind as we keep going deeper into this video's perspective on Filipino dating culture.
Okay, so we've established this video is a little messy,
Yeah,
but messy can be interesting, right?
for sure.
So let's dig into the advice itself and see if we can find any real insights.
Sounds good.
One of the first things it says is to show your interest, but also be respectful.
Okay.
And that's pretty standard dating advice anywhere, right?
Yeah, you're right. But the video also highlights the importance of meeting the family, especially for women from the provinces.
Right.
And it even mentions the concept of laga, this traditional Filipino courtship process.
Ah, laga.
Yeah.
I've read a bit about that.
Yeah.
It's about the man putting in a lot of effort to win the woman over.
Yeah, laga is all about showing real interest and earning the trust of the woman and her family. It's an interesting tradition. I'd be curious to know if it's as common these days or if modern dating is changing things.
I'd like to know more about that too. And I wonder if the video's focus on respect is connected to laga.
That's a good point. It does seem like laga encourages a more gradual approach,
Yeah.
building respect and trust rather than jumping into things.
So even if this video isn't the most nuanced source, it's still revealing something about Filipino dating culture.
That's true. And it shows how important it is to approach dating across cultures with sensitivity and a willingness to learn.
Couldn't agree more. It's not about following a script, but about understanding that there might be different values and expectations.
Right. And probably most importantly, it's a reminder to look beyond stereotypes and just treat each person as an individual.
That's such a good point. So you've talked about Liga and family values and how the video kind of markets certain qualities to a Western audience. But there's another theme here, this idea of Filipino women being drawn to Western ideals. What are your thoughts on that?
What's a complex issue with a long history?
Yeah.
We can't ignore the influence of colonialism, globalization and economic disparities.
Yeah.
They shape these perceptions of the West and of Western men as being more desirable or affluent.
So it's bigger than just individual preferences then.
Right. It's about these larger forces. And the media plays a huge role, too. Hollywood movies, Western music, even social media.
Yeah.
All of it contributes to these idealized images of the West.
So it's like a feedback loop
Yeah,
where
exactly.
portrayals influence desires and expectations both in the Philippines and outside.
Precisely. And what we have to remember is that these aren't inherent truths.
Right.
They're just socially constructed ideas that can be challenged and deconstructed.
Okay, so we've got this mix of history, economics, and media all shaping perceptions.
Mhm.
But let's go back to the dating advice itself. The video gives some pretty generic tips like taking her out to dinner, being a gentleman, showing affection.
Yeah, those are pretty universal. But it's interesting how the video frames them within Filipino culture.
Like what?
Well, it stresses respecting your family's values and traditions,
Mm-hmm.
which, makes sense in a family-oriented culture like the Philippines.
Right, we've talked about that. And the video also says not to be too pushy or aggressive, to be patient and understanding.
I wonder if that ties back into Liga,
Maybe.
because Liga encourages a slower approach built on respect and trust.
That makes sense. So even though this video is rough around the edges, it's giving us some insight into the nuances of dating in the Philippines.
I agree. And it really highlights how important it is to approach dating across cultures with sensitivity and a willingness to learn and adapt.
For sure. It's not about having a script, but about recognizing that there might be different values and expectations at play.
Yeah, and I think most importantly, it reminds us to look past stereotypes and treat everyone as individuals.
Such a crucial point. This video has definitely given us a lot to think about,
It asks.
from historical influences to modern dating trends. But before we jump to conclusions, I want to hear from our listener. What are your first impressions of all of this? What's standing out to you?
Yeah, let us know.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. So hit us up in the comments or on social media. Let's keep this conversation going. So it's like this whole genre of videos online aimed at Western guys, giving them tips on dating women from different cultures.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a growing trend and it makes sense in a way. There's more interest in cross-cultural relationships these days, so maybe people are looking for some kind of roadmap.
I get that.
Yeah.
But it also feels a little iffy, packaging a whole culture's dating norms into these bite-sized videos. Doesn't that oversimplify things?
Yeah, it definitely can. And it risks reinforcing harmful stereotypes too.
Right. Because at the end of the day, relationships aren't about following a script.
Exactly.
They're about a genuine connection, mutual respect, shared values. And that's true no matter where you're from or your cultural background.
Couldn't agree more. When we reduce people to stereotypes or commodities, it undermines healthy relationships.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways for our listeners? How can we engage with this kind of content in a responsible way?
Well, I think the most important thing is to be critical. Be aware that there might be biases and agendas at play. Don't just take everything at face value.
So basically, don't let someone else's perspective be your only perspective.
Exactly. Do your own research, seek out different viewpoints, and talk to real people from the culture you're interested in.
That's great advice. And I think it's important to think about our own motivations and expectations, too. When we think about dating across cultures, are we being respectful and empathetic, or are we just buying into stereotypes?
That's a really important question. I think responsible dating, no matter the cultural context, starts with self-awareness and treating others as individuals.
Well said. So to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought. Dating in the Philippines is complex. Like anywhere else, there's no one-size-fits-all guide. But understanding cultural nuances can definitely help.
Absolutely. And as you explore this topic further, keep an open mind, challenge your assumptions, and seek out diverse voices and experiences.
Exactly. This deep dive might be over, but the learning never stops. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy exploring.